Pokemon Stadium 2 was always special to me. While most of my memories from the Generation 1 era are from playing Pokemon Red and Blue on my Game Boy, many of my memories from Generation 2 come from playing Pokemon Stadium 2. My sisters and I would play the mini-games all the time. We didn't have Mario Party and this was close enough, and the mini battle modes in this game always kept my interest. There was just so much to do, but the main challenge in Pokemon Stadium to me was always the Gym Leader Castle, where you battle every single gym leader in Pokemon Stadium, which is much harder than they are in the core Pokemon games. I made a video like this for Pokemon Stadium 1, so now it's time to tackle it on Pokemon Stadium 2. So I didn't look too much at this guide, actually. This is the official Nintendo Power Guide, the only guide from Nintendo, and I didn't pay 1 cent. I'm not sure why the sticker price says 1 cent. Was this like on sale? Is that a typo? I bought it secondhand for a lot more than 1 cent. Flipping over to the back, super effective. Let the pros from Nintendo Power guide you through some of the toughest Pokemon battles ever. Detailed info on all the trainers inside Pokemon Stadium 2, battle-tested rental Pokemon suggestions, hints for raising your own team of champions, complete info on every Pokemon you'll face, including moves and items, educated tips for acing the Pokemon Academy's quizzes and battles. A couple things I did notice actually from just briefly skimming through this, some of these pictures are so high quality, like the models of these Pokemon here, the shiny Gyarados 2, bring it on. An entire stadium full of Pokemon awaits you inside Pokemon Stadium 2, the bigger, tougher sequel to Pokemon Stadium. All the Pokemon from Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, and Silver are ready to test your Pokemon battling skills. Off to battle. Pokemon Stadium 2 is about more than just heated battles. The game explodes with hot extras like minigames, mystery gifting, and full access to your GB Pokemon games thanks to the N64 Transfer Pack. Get fired up like a Magby and uncover everything that Stadium 2 holds within its battle-scarred walls. How to play. The long road to becoming a true Pokemon Master requires a good deal of discipline. The rules of Pokemon Stadium 2 are very specific and picky, and the battles they are used for will surely give your discipline as well as your Pokemon quite a workout. The do's and don'ts of battles. To keep things fair, challenging, and tricky, Pokemon Stadium 2 offers plenty of sets of rules for its different competitions. Depending on the cup and mode you choose, you'll have to follow a unique set of rules. Press the R button when selecting cup to view the rules. I choose you, and don't choose a Pokemon based off type alone. Consider its attack types too. When selecting a Pokemon for your team, you can check out its stats and moves, highlight a Pokemon from the chart, and then hit A to see its info. Ooh, unlike Stadium 1, we actually have some decent bug types like Heracross. It even tells us how to make a balanced team versus an imbalanced team. This team is all flying type. Oh, advanced battling techniques. Let's check this out. If you want to defeat every last trainer in Pokemon Stadium 2, you will need to consider and implement 3 final concepts. The most important is raising your own Pokemon. While the game does offer rental Pokemon, it is very tough to win many of the battles in Pokemon Stadium 2 with them. You should also make study of status-changing attacks, stat-altering attacks, and items. Knowing the subtleties of Pokemon can dramatically improve your battling ability. I like how it shows a giraffe rig for this. Like, who's going to use a giraffe rig? I also think Stadium 2 has way better minigames than Stadium 1. Stadium 1 minigames are pretty good, don't get me wrong, but Stadium 2 has some classics like the Mr. Mime barrier wall. That was one of my favorites. Maybe it's because I was younger when Stadium 1 came out. There's some games that I just had no idea how they work, while the Stadium 2 games were a lot more straightforward. Oh, that's cool. It even has like the type changes with type effectiveness between Gen 1 and Gen 2. All right, let me actually just get in the game and see what's going on. Remember when I played Stadium 2 a lot? I would pretty much only just use Espeon and Umbreon. And it looks like I didn't even beat this game. I got up to the Team Rocket executive after Jasmine and then just never beat it. So right here, this is the real prize, and this is why I want to do the Gym Leader Challenge mainly. Doduo GB. Finish either of the 4 cups or Gym Leader Castle round 1 to win the Doduo Game Boy, which lets you play Red, Blue, and Yellow at twice the normal speed. Accomplish either task in round 2 to win a special Doduo Game Boy, which lets you play Gold and Silver at twice the regular speed. Gym Leader Castle. The best Pokemon trainers in the world gather at the Gym Leader Castles in Johto and Kanto. You'll begin your climb to the top in the Johto Castle, battling through 8 gyms, Team Rocket, and the Elite Four. If you emerge victorious, you'll have 9 more battles to conquer in Kanto. In all, you'll face 38 trainers and their highly trained Pokemon. And then if we look here on the next page, so this is actually really different from the Stadium 1 guide. This one doesn't show as, it doesn't say as much, but it tells us the exact Pokemon to use, which is actually really helpful. The rental team shown below will singe the feathers from the flying-type Pokemon Matt and Falkner use. You'll win many battles with just one Ice, Rock, or Electric hit. The 3 primary fighters have great speed, so you'll get the first hit. And then down here, for example, against Matt, one of the gym trainers, it tells us like use Jinx, Jinx. So basically just use Jinx against Matt, and then use Aerodactyl against Falkner with Electabuzz being at the end. So I like that. Not as much information, not as much reading the guide, but it is helpful, I think. Hopefully I'll be able to beat the Gym Leader Castle on my childhood copy of Pokemon Stadium 2, which I was never able to do. I don't really understand why they recommend Skarmory, I guess because it's just bulky. Alright, so yeah, the guide just says use Jinx. I'm bringing Jinx. As you saw, the guide was very different from Pokemon Stadium 1. It shows a quick paragraph before each gym, then the recommended rental Pokemon and what moves to go for. I opted to go for rental Pokemon for this playthrough because I don't have a completed copy of Gold, Silver, or Crystal to get my own Pokemon from it, and as you saw from the previous video, rental Pokemon can be pretty tough to use. In the case for the first gym, Falkner's gym, it says to use Jinx for the first trainer's team, and Jinx takes care of this intrepid bird keeper in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Another thing I just noticed about the guide, we have the 6 recommended team, and then right here it has the 3 Pokemon that it actually recommends. So I didn't bring the 3 recommended for Matt, but for Falkner, we need Aerodactyl, Electabuzz, and Magneton, so I will bring those 3. I don't know how I feel about Aerodactyl when its best move is Ancient Power. I mean, I guess it's stronger, but Ancient Power is not a terribly strong move. There is no physical and special split in this generation, so all rock-type moves are physical, which is better for Aerodactyl, but is even going to one-shot a Fearow? It's not going to one-shot a Fearow. And it's going to mirror move my Ancient Power, okay. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't understand why Jinx isn't suggested against Falkner himself when it was so good against the previous trainer and still hits 5 of Falkner's 6 Pokemon for super effective damage. The guide does things in a weird way, although, to be fair, so do I. Like, have you seen any of my other videos? If you haven't, you could subscribe to see more, but Aerodactyl works well for Falkner to get our first gym badge in this challenge. I did actually lose on my first attempt because of Pidgeot with Mirror Move to copy my Ancient Power and then get the stat boost, but still, Aerodactyl was good enough. Next, we're on to Bugsy's gym. So for the Azalea gym, it says Bug-type Pokemon are easy peckings for the likes of Fearow. You'll get some work from Graveler, Kadabra, and Hitmonlee as well. In the final battle, you could run afoul of Scyther, Hyper Beams, and Weeping Bell Sludge Bomb. So we got Fearow, Seadra, Hitmonlee, Kadabra, Scizor, and Graveler. I wonder why it's recommending Seadra. Surf, Dragon Breath, Swift, and Smokescreen. Is there like, I guess this guy has a Geodude, is that why? And then Bugsy, of course, just has a bunch of bugs, and then a Pupitar, which is not a bug type. That's why it wants us to use Hitmonlee and Seadra, although it wants us to bring Seadra, not Hitmonlee for that battle. Haha, run afoul like the bird. Get it? Fearow works very well here, being one of the only usable fully evolved birds in the game, and then we have our first odd choice, Seadra. It's only here for Bugcatcher Chaz's Shuckle and Geodude. Why does a Bugcatcher have a Geodude anyway? I have no idea. One of the biggest issues with rental Pokemon in both Stadium games was with how they tried to balance them. Fully evolved Pokemon like Alakazam or Kingdra tend to have worse moves than their pre-evolutions, in this case, Seadra and Kadabra. This is why Pokemon that don't evolve like Jinx and Skarmory are very good, because they have good stats and better move pools than most Pokemon that are finally evolved forms. I know I'm nitpicking about a game older than a good chunk of people watching this video, but I'm not gonna stop. Another thing about the guide I wanted to point out is it actually tells you, like, if you want to use the rental Pokemon, but also if you use one that you raise in Gold, Silver, or Crystal, tells you what types of moves you want, so in case of Seadra, Water, Rock, and Steel, and then some recommended attacks, Hydro Pump, Surf, Rock Slide, Iron Tail, Screech, and Tail Whip. Makes a lot of sense, too bad I don't have Pokemon I can use. I'm looking at the Pokemon that it has this used for Twins, Min, and Lin, and over here against the Hoppip, it says to use Fearow with Drill Peck if you use the rental one, but then if you raise one, it recommends Ice-type moves like Blizzard, Ice Punch, and Ice Beam. I don't think Fearow gets any of those moves. In hindsight, I'm guessing these move suggestions are just general ones for any Pokemon to use, but some of the rental Pokemon were still able to learn all the suggested moves if you raise one yourself, so I'm not really sure where it was going with this. I also noticed a weird suggestion back for Chaz, where it doesn't tell us to bring Hitmonlee instead of Scizor, which would have just been better for his Rattata and also still hit his Geodude for super effective damage. This would have made a lot more sense if he had Poison-type moves, so that way Scizor's immune to them, but none of his Pokemon even had Poison moves, so there was really no point in bringing Scizor. Fearow's Heroics made the second gym easier than your mother after a glass of cheap wine, bringing us on to Whitney's gym. Third up we have Whitney. Let's see what it says for the Goldenrod gym. Skarmory Steel Wing may not defeat every opponent in a single hit, but it is your best weapon against many of the Goldenrod trainers. In the final bout, Miltank is your biggest obstacle. You'll outlast it if you use Skarmory's Fly attack. So recommended Pokemon, we got Skarmory, Electabuzz, Tyranitar, Aerodactyl, Slowking, and Graveler. No fighting type for Whitney, which is interesting because I know Hitmonlee is a pretty solid rental. Whitney's gym trainers had teams with some type variety, but Skarmory and Graveler can wall off most of them, leading us into the actual fight against Whitney. So for Whitney, it's telling us to bring Skarmory, Tyranitar, and Aerodactyl. I guess it's going for the more resisting their attacks approach rather than being super effective against normal types approach. It would have made so much more sense to bring Hitmonlee here, because Hitmonlee clears everything on the team except for Dodrio and Gloom, which I could just use, like, Jinx for. If it were up to me, I would bring Hitmonlee and Jinx here and probably win. Well, it's really not up to me, it's the guide, because that's the whole point of this whole series. This trio of Pokemon that I suggested us to bring, though, make Whitney a piece of cake, and although her Miltank has Rollout, it doesn't have Defense Curl, and we have access to use any Pokemon that we want in the entire Generation 2 span of Pokemon, unlike what we would have had in the main series games if we fought her in Goldenrod City, which is pretty early on, which is another reason why Whitney is more difficult in the core games compared to Stadium 2. I'm sure if you had access to Skarmory or Tyranitar for her gym in Gold and Silver, she'd be easy there too. And this will do it to get us through Whitney. So that was the least confident I was going to any of these 3 gym leader fights, and we got through there on the first try. So you didn't have to play so rough. Sorry, Whitney, it had to be done. In hindsight, this team was actually better off than I thought while I was actually playing through the game. It focuses more on defense, but let's see what the guide says about Morty and his Ghost-type Pokemon. Kadabra gets a workout against the Ecruteak gym. In the first battle, get Ditto to transform into Skarmory before changing it into Electabuzz. If Kadabra faces Ariados in the final match, one Sludge Bomb can end it all for you. Wait, what? Get Ditto to transform into Skarmory? I was a bit confused by what it meant with the Ditto, then I realized it wanted me to trick the first trainer who happened to have a Ditto by making their Ditto transform into Skarmory, then switch to my Electabuzz to knock it out with an electric type attack. The rest of the team it suggests here is actually pretty strong too. Big threats like Umbreon, Electabuzz, Skarmory, and Charizard, then the veteran Pokemon Stadium MVP in Kadabra, and surprisingly, Seadra for a second time, which seems to be the best rental water-type Pokemon. I managed to get through the first 2 trainers into Morty pretty quickly, and did well against Morty until... Please don't be Gengar, please don't be Gengar, please don't be Gengar, please don't be Gengar. Gengar was really tough to us, and him leading Ariados was an issue as well. The guide suggests to use Kadabra on Ariados, but it isn't a safe switch into Ariados because Kadabra can go down to a single Sludge Bomb from an Ariados. I decided to try to use a different lead for Morty, but also realized here that we can give items to our rental Pokemon. We're limited to just berries that cure status conditions or heal a bit of HP, but it's still better than nothing. On the second attempt against Morty, I made sure to save Umbreon for his Gengar, and that worked in our favor so we can take him out and move on to Chuck. Now we have Chuck, and he only has 2 trainers in the gym, including himself, and it says 2 trainers are all that's in between you and victory. In the second battle, you'll face the negative effects of flinching and confusion. That seems fun. Recommended team is Slowking, Golbat, Kadabra, Venusaur, Scyther, and Skarmory. Really makes sense for this matchup actually. Fighting type gym. It's only 2 trainers, we can do it. Kind of annoying how they made Chuck the RNG gym leader, but the Bitter Berry worked well here to cure a confusion caused by the dynamic punches. I like the suggestion of using Scyther here, which is way better in this game than in Stadium 1, as infamously, bug types weren't great in Stadium 1. Scyther has a Wing Attack, or the Wing Attack Attack as the game refers to it as, and it actually licks its blades when it's sent out to battle, which is incredibly menacing. I noticed that unlike in the first Stadium game, trainer names and classes aren't shortened to fit the game as well, and they added a bit more personality to the dialogue. The gym leaders will have some trash talk here and there, and they'll even say something after each battle whether you win or lose. The only surprise for this section was that it only suggested Kadabra for Black Belt Nix Nidorino, but Slowking actually has Psychic, which is just a nice substitute. Slowking's strongest water move is only Water Gun, but we have other Pokemon to cover ground-type Pokemon like Venusaur. Chuck's gym also has Pokemon with Horn Attack, a one-hit KO move, which makes using slower Pokemon like Slowking and Venusaur a bit annoying because they can just get outsped and die. Kadabra is clearly the best Pokemon for this section when you factor in its speed, but I actually lost to this Black Belt because he landed 2 one-hit KO moves. On the second attempt, I led with Kadabra as he actually missed a one-hit KO move, and I saved Slowking for his Hitmontop because it didn't have anything to hit Slowking too hard. The gym trainer was pretty annoying, and then for Chuck, the guide doesn't recommend us to use Kadabra, but instead recommends Skarmory, Scyther, and Golbat. His Poliwrath had Focus Band, which was annoying as it makes it live with 1 HP, but thanks to the Bitter Berry curing our confusion, we were able to get through Chuck much easier than we were able to get through the trainer before him. So now for Jasmine, it's just her in this gym, which is kinda nice. It says, just 1 trainer for the Olivine City confronts you, but steel yourself for a long battle. Steel yourself for a long battle? I guess because she uses steel types, like, sure. Jasmine tends to switch Pokemon whenever you do. Both Quagsire and Magmar were well against Jasmine's steel type favorites. The rest are for show. Although you say that, and then you also suggest Electabuzz for 3 of her 5 Pokemon. So I guess Electabuzz isn't for show. Quagsire, Electabuzz, and Magmar are great choices to use against Jasmine. Another thing I want to note is that Stadium 2 did a good job at picking teams for each trainer. Not only do the trainers before the gym leader make sense for their point in the story, much like how they were in Stadium 1, but the gym leader teams themselves have different teams than what they have in the core series games because they need to fill out a full team of 6 for Stadium 2. But they at least give them Pokemon that make sense to their team, like Jasmine having Mantine because of her gym's proximity to the water, Corsola because of her history with rock-type Pokemon, and then Forretress because it's a Generation 2 Steel-type Pokemon that she doesn't normally have. This is better shown with the Kanto gym leaders we'll see later on, but I actually lost to Jasmine on the first try because of how much she switches out. She'll almost always switch out if you have a Pokemon that's super active against hers out, and after the first loss, I went back in but tried to predict her switches. It was pretty tough though because of her team of 6 Pokemon, I wasn't sure exactly which 3 she would bring as it's different every time that you try to fight her, but by switching so much, I was able to slowly damage her Pokemon, and once I got the first knockout, the rest of her team fell much quicker. And after that, I needed a break. I had been playing Pokemon Stadium 2 all day pretty much by this point, and I was tired of losing so much. My life is very difficult, I know. Time for Team Rocket. Honestly, don't really know how this is gonna go. This is the part that I struggled with as a kid and can never get past, so maybe the guy can help me. So for the recommended rental team, we have Graveler, Gengar, Skarmory, Machoke, Aerodactyl, Kadabra. Very strong team, almost entirely Gen 1 except for the Skarmory. The first grunt relies on explosive force, but you can weather that. Skarmory has the metal to face off against Team Rocket's Pokemon, but you'll need some help from Graveler and Machoke as well. Team Rocket's bark is worse than their bites. For Battle 1, it wants us to use Skarmory, Graveler, and Slowbro. Wait, what? Slowbro? Slowbro's not on the recommended team, though. Did they put Kadabra by accident and they meant Slowbro? Because it's recommending Slowbro for the second battle, too, and then it's not recommending Kadabra for the third battle or the fourth. So I have a feeling that they meant Slowbro and not Kadabra. I'll just see how it... Do they even use Slowbro in the teams, actually? So for the first 3 battles, there's no Slowbro matching up. And for the 4th battle, there's also no Slowbro matching up. It looks like for all the battles, it doesn't want me to use Slowbro or Kadabra for that matter, or Gengar even. Gengar's not even recommended for any of these, so why do you want me to bring it? I don't know. We'll just see how this goes. If we fail with Kadabra, we'll swap it with Slowbro. The addition of a Team Rocket section in the Stadium 2 Gym Leader Castle is a nice tie-in to Gold and Silver story mode, but I could never beat this part as a kid, and as you can see, this was as far as I got when I first loaded up this game for this video. The guide confused me a bit by showing Kadabra on the recommended team for the Rocket section, but then listed Slowbro for the Pokemon I should bring for this section, just to not directly recommend either of them for any specific Pokemon and instead rely mostly on Skarmory and Graveler for this section. These 2 Pokemon cover each other very nicely, allowing us to beat the first Rocket Grunt with ease. Battle 2, it says Skarmory, Machoke, and of course Slowbro again, but then doesn't tell us to use Slowbro in any specific battle. Looks like the Skarmory show here, actually 5 Pokemon are weak to Skarmory, and then we have the Machoke. I don't know why it doesn't want me to bring Graveler, by the way, because Graveler would also be good against the Houndour and the Zubat, and the Murkrow, but it wants me to bring Slowbro, which is weak to 2 of the things that he had. Whatever. Okay, I feel like the guide is slacking off a little bit here, because first we have the Kadabra mistake. Now, for Spinarak, look at this. I'm not even going to turn on the small cam. I'm just going to point it up here. For Spinarak, it wants me to use Skarmory, but use Steel Wing. I have Fly. I mean, I'll listen to it, but like, why would I not use Fly here? The suggestions made were very strange here, but at least the battles were a lot easier than what I remember when playing this game as a kid. Probably because I only used Espeon and Umbreon as a kid in a throwaway 3rd Pokemon, and now I have an actual guide telling me what optimal Pokemon to use, but then the guide also does weird things like this against the last member of Team Rocket. 3rd Rocket Executive out of the way. Now for the final one, it recommends Graveler, Aerodactyl, and Skarmory. His team is Houndoom, Golbat, Persian, Mysteryvis, Victreebel, and Wobbuffet. Pretty scary, although again, like, Skarmory clears at least 2 of these Pokemon. Graveler's been really solid as well, so that's 3 of the Pokemon right there. And then it wants Aerodactyl, literally just for the Golbat, although Aerodactyl's also not bad against the Houndour, I guess. I'm scared of the Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet in earlier generations is a terrifying Pokemon, so we'll see how this goes. It's doing the thing again, where like, on his Victreebel, I'm switching to Skarmory because it wants me to use Skarmory, but it's saying to use Steel Wing and not Fly. Because it's not like he has a rock type to switch into. If I go for Fly, something's taking pretty big damage. So I don't understand why I would not go for fly here. Like, is the guide writer confused? Maybe it thinks Steel Wing is also a flying type move because it has wing in it? And despite struggling at this part as a kid so much, I beat it first try this time around. I probably haven't played this game in at least 20 years, and part of the reason why I love playing older Pokemon games so much and use official hardware in real games is because I can do these challenges on my childhood games, which makes it feel much more special to me. And by the way, I can also unlock the Doduo mode Game Boy in Stadium 2, which is the real prize here. If only I knew about that like 9 months ago. Now for the Mahogany City Gym, we have Pryce, and it says, you'll get a cold shoulder from Pryce and fellow trainers. If Pryce uses Ursaring in the final fight, you'll have a bear of a battle on your hands. Bring out Hitmonlee first, just in case Ursaring shows up, and give Hitmonlee a berry. Will do. Electabuzz was a bit tricky to use here because of the ground type some of the trainers have. However, it's the best electric-type Pokemon that we have access to with the rental Pokemon, and needed to take on Pokemon like Dewgong and Azumarill. Finally for Pryce, he has Piloswine, Dewgong, Cloyster, Ursaring, Donphan, and Jinx. Recommended Pokemon would be Gyarados, Electabuzz, Hitmonlee. Here's another thing I have to pick with this. This specific battle is not as bad, but in the previous battle it did it worse. So the way I understand it is whichever Pokemon is listed first, in this case Gyarados, that should be your lead. Previously though, if we look at Battle 2, it recommends I lead with Caesar, but then it recommends Caesar against 2 of the Pokemon, but then Electabuzz against 3, so statistically, Carol would lead with a Pokemon weak to Electabuzz, which is what happened to us, and I had to switch into Electabuzz. It also says to use the Fighting-type Pokemon Hitmonlee on Pryce's Psychic-type Jinx, but despite what I just said, I still lead with Gyarados like the guide said, and it did less than half damage to his lead Donphan. Caesar might have actually been a better option, but Pryce's Pokemon are pretty tanky, and I thought I was gonna beat Pryce, but then I totally forgot about his third Pokemon, and I lost. That's the second time I forgot about the third Pokemon. I also don't understand how that Piloswine outside my Gyarados. And so much went wrong there. So much went wrong, we still almost won. Electabuzz got frozen. Hitmonlee got critted. Gyarados got outsped somehow. On the second attempt, I was a bit more focused and made better switches to catch his Dewgong off guard and finally get through Pryce. One thing I noticed with this game is if you get the first KO, you are usually going to win, where if they KO one of your Pokemon first, you're probably going to lose. Now, time for Claire. Recommended rental team, we have Sandslash, Remoraid, I guess because that has Ice Beam. Remoraid might be the best Pokemon with Ice Beam, honestly, because fully evolved Pokemon don't typically get moves like that. Hitmonlee, Electabuzz, Fearow, and Corsola. I don't like the lack of Ice-type attackers. I don't know what her team is exactly. Maybe her team doesn't have a lot of Dragon types, but let's just see what it says. Claire's Dragon-type Pokemon are some of the toughest fighters in the castle. Remoraid, Surf, and Ice Beam are used only in the final battle, but they're critical at that time. Claire typically uses Kingdra, Dragonair, and Rhydon, so I guess Remoraid's good against 2 of those 3. Don't have anything for Kingdra, though. I mocked the Remoraid when the guide suggested it, but it was actually really solid against Claire. We didn't need to use it until we fought Claire herself, but Fearow matched up well against the 2 gym trainers before Claire, with the second gym trainer having all 6 starter Pokemon that were available at the time. Which doesn't really make too much sense for her part of the game, but I guess they kind of just ran out of trainer classes by this point. Then for Claire, Remoraid was able to do most of the work with Ice Beam. It was a bit jarring to see this small fish recommended for the last gym leader of the Johto region when I have access to any Pokemon I want in the form of rental Pokemon. I wonder why the guide writer even settled on Remoraid. Was it just the first Pokemon they saw with Ice Beam? Is it just better than Articuno or other ice types? Maybe. So for the Elite Four, it looks like it's 4 battles that would just go consecutively, so we only use 1 team. And for the rental team, it says Umbreon, Wobbuffet, Kadabra, Quagsire, Fearow, and Electabuzz. All of which are Pokemon we used before except for Wobbuffet, and all of them were really good, especially Electabuzz, Kadabra, and Fearow. And it says use Umbreon's Spin Attack against Koga's double teaming Pokemon. It never misses. That's actually really good advice. You also have Swift on Electabuzz, which is nice. So for Will, Umbreon, Wobbuffet, and Fearow, he got Xatu, Kadabra, Girafarig, Clefable, Exeggutor, and Jinx. This is the part where we really start to see Wobbuffet shine a lot more because of its high HP stat paired with the moves Counter and Mirror Move, which deal back damage when hit with a physical move or special move respectively. This has to be a mistake and I just noticed it. So as you can see, Will has led with Jinx. What does the guide say? Fearow on Jinx, go for Drill Peck. I mean, I'll switch to Fearow. Yeah, I know it's not the right play, but I'm gonna do it. I switched to Fearow on Jinx anyway against my better judgment, and Will just switched too, so that play accidentally worked out for us. He sent out Clefable, which has Thunder, so I swapped to Wobbuffet to try and take a Thunder, then go for Mirror Coat. No, not the paralysis! You are really unlucky. Thank you, Will. I didn't know. Despite Will getting the paralysis off of Thunder from Clefable on our Wobbuffet and Will calling us unlucky, I'm still able to defeat him and prepare for Koga now. Koga relies on a double team strategy, but we have Feint Attack on Umbreon to get through it, and this time we don't get unlucky and land our attacks, so take that, Will. The guide mainly suggests Kadabra and Quagsire for Koga, and just set to bring Umbreon because it has access to Feint Attack, which can never miss and just bypass double team cheese. Either way, the Elite Four is shaping out to be much easier than most of the gyms before it. Bruno is literally a hiker like he is in Stadium 1, but has a Blastoise this time, and again, gets stomped by Fearow and Quagsire. So here's another thing I want to showcase. So, Battle 4, Karen, Umbreon, Fearow, Quagsire. So Umbreon's first, meaning you should probably lead Umbreon. 5 of the 6 Pokemon it says to use Fearow, so why would I not lead Fearow? Against Karen I led with Fearow anyway, as she led with Umbreon, and the 3 Pokemon I brought just outmatch her 3 so we can get through her very easily and then move on to the champion, Lance. Yeah, Lance has Dragonite, Tyranitar, Charizard, Aerodactyl, Steelix, and Gyarados. Wants us to use Wobbuffet, Quagsire, and Electabuzz. And looks like Quagsire is putting in quite a bit of work with Surf. Looks like even the Elite Four couldn't stop you. I'm your last opponent in the Johto Castle. Wobbuffet was literally a cheat code through this part of the game, as although it is a bit of a guessing game deciding if I should go for Counter expecting a physical attack, or Mirror Coat expecting a special one, Wobbuffet was still able to take out his first 2 Pokemon before falling to Lance's Dragonite. Then Electabuzz was able to weaken the Dragonite a bit more before falling, so Quagsire can take it out with Surf, as left Dragonite with like 8 HP remaining by that point. I concede defeat. What do you mean you concede? I beat you fair and square. You might have what it takes to prevail over Kanto's gym leaders. Now we have to go through the Kanto gym leaders, a great addition to the gym leader castle, so let's see what the guide says here. Looking ahead at the Kanto gym leader section, looks like it's much more simplified compared to the Johto ones, because it doesn't even show us a full team of 6 to use, it just shows us the 3 to use against each gym leader. And it looks like each gym leader, you just fight the gym leader itself and no other trainers in their area. So this might actually be easier than Kanto, because it's how it is for all of them. No explanation even for like why I'm picking these Pokemon or what. And then that goes all the way up to Red. So I guess we're gonna just do this and see how it goes. I don't think it'll take too long. It looks like it'll be easier than Johto. Hopefully those aren't like famous last words. I don't know. We'll see. This section is much simpler than the section on the Johto gyms, with each gym just having a gym leader to fight and no gym trainers. The guide gives no explanations either for the Kanto gyms, and just shows us which 3 Pokemon to use and what each gym leader has. I actually made a mistake and fought Brock first, while the guide wants you to fight Lieutenant Surge first. In the game, you can battle any Kanto gym leader in any order, although it displays them in their original order from Red and Blue, with Brock being first and then Blue being last. Well, I guess it's not really the original order, because Blue as well as Janine weren't in Red and Blue, but it's the same order in terms of the badges, if that makes sense. The guide suggests to fight Lieutenant Surge first, which doesn't even look like Lieutenant Surge, by the way, and wants you to do it in the order that you face them in Gold and Silver, as you arrive in Vermilion City first when you go to Kanto. Despite this, I was still able to get through Brock, sort of breaking the rules, by the way, as I used Lieutenant Surge's team to beat Brock. Sorry. But then I can go back to fight Lieutenant Surge himself. I like the additions of Porygon and Lantern to his team, especially because Chinchou can be found via fishing near Vermilion City in Pokemon Gold and Silver. And much like their counterparts in Gold and Silver, the Kanto gyms are so much easier and can be beaten much quicker than the Johto section. This must be a bad dream. I did struggle a bit against Misty and Erica, but this whole section took about 2 hours to beat, which was much quicker than how long it took for the Johto section. There were some surprise Pokemon suggestions like Jumpluff for Misty because of its speed, and Houndour for Blue due to its better move pool compared to its evolution Houndoom, but I don't really see much of a point to do a play-by-play on each of these gyms when the guide doesn't even offer up much about them and doesn't really say anything. Even for the final battle against Red, which is the last battle needed to clear the castle, the guide doesn't say anything special. Red is one of the most difficult fights in the main series Pokemon games, and as you can see, his team is quite different from what it is in Gold and Silver. No Pikachu, but he has the 3 Johto starters in their final evolution, Jolteon, Scizor, and then Tauros. Much like how the guide suggested Remoraid against Claire, we have another weird team member suggestion for Red. It's Oddish. Literally, just for his Meganium, because Oddish has Sludge Bomb, and I guess it's the best option the guy could find for Meganium. I guess it didn't want me to bring Fearow because he has a Jolteon? But then also, why bring Oddish? Because he has a Typhlosion? I feel like for the most part, the guide recommended mostly good Pokemon, but then there were just some wild cards like Oddish, or Remoraid, or Seadra. But anyway, against my better judgment, I bring a lowly Oddish to the final fight in the Pokemon Stadium 2 Gym Leader Castle, one of the hardest challenges in this entire game. Well, I guess round 2 is hard and this is round 1, but I digress. Taking a look at Red's team, he has the 3 Johto starters, then he has Jolteon, Caesar, and Tauros, and for Pokemon that it wants us to use, we got Wobbuffet, mainly just for counter and reflect cheese, Graveler for his fire and electric types, and then Oddish. Yeah, Oddish. This is like part of the whole Stadium Cheese thing, I guess because it has Sludge Bomb. Is it really the best Sludge Bomb user for Meganium? Why would I not just use Fearow? Isn't Fearow just better? Fearow is just leagues better. I mean, I'm going to listen to the guide and bring Oddish, but I don't like it. I led with Wobbuffet as Red led with his Jolteon, so I go right into Graveler and just knock it out with an Earthquake. I was surprised he didn't switch, but then he goes into Feraligatr as I go to Wobbuffet and take it out with a Mirror Coat, then fall to Tauros. The guide suggested Wobbuffet for his Tauros, so I figure I can just let my Oddish die here since I know he doesn't have Meganium. Oddish manages to get a lot of work done though, and does half damage on Tauros and also paralyzes it with Stun Spore, mainly because Tauros missed a Blizzard and then Oddish finally falls. This gave Graveler a free turn to attack because Tauros knocked out my Oddish with Hyper Beam and had the recharge turn, and since it's paralyzed, we have a better chance to knock it out on the following turn in case we don't knock it out here. Oddish really was the MVP that was all the work it put in allowed Graveler to take out Tauros, making us the champion of the Pokemon Stadium 2 Gym Leader Castle. Congratulations, you got the Doduo mode Game Boy. That's the real prize, buddy. And there's even a Doduo on the game. I have to test this out. Oh, let's go. This is not video edited, folks. This is Pokemon Yellow in 2x speed on official hardware. This feels really fast. This feels more than 2x speed. If only I knew this 9 months ago when I did a Professor Oak's challenge on Yellow version. I've heard some mixed things about how to get this for Gold, Silver, Crystal. Some things say you have to beat the Elite Four in Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Some say you have to beat the Elite Four just like the mode that I just did in Stadium 2. I don't really know. But if I ever get around to doing like Gold and Silver videos, I will figure that out. And there you have it, folks. I beat Pokemon Gold and Silver how Nintendo intended thanks to this awesome strategy guide printed 25 years ago. What was my big prize out of this? That. The Doduo mode tower. So now I could play Red, Blue, and Yellow 2x speed. Next course of action, figure out how to play Gold, Silver, Crystal in 2x speed with official hardware. Yeah, I guess that's it. So, bye.